The wind was restless that night, an uneasy, wandering sound that slipped through the cracks of the old Whitlock ranch house like a ghost searching for warmth. Midnight had a way of making the plains feel endless, and in that hour, the loneliness inside the wooden walls matched the vast emptiness outside. Shadows danced across the floors as the lantern flickered, its dim glow just enough for Adam Whitlock to pace the room with his crying infant in his arms. Lily's wails clawed at the quiet night. Adam held her the way he'd watched Sarah do it 100 times, but everything about it felt wrong in his hands, awkward, forced, uncertain. His late wife had always possessed a natural gentleness, a soothing touch that made the world seem smaller and safer. Adam was trying, he really was, but each night felt like he was drowning a little more in a role he never asked for and wasn't prepared to face alone. "Shish, it's okay, Daddy's here," he whispered, though the words felt clumsy leaving his lips. Lily only cried louder. Exhaustion weighed heavy in his bones. His eyes burned from sleepless nights, and his back ached from hours spent walking the same path across the creaking wooden floorboards. Grief made the house feel darker than the storm falling outside. Every corner held a memory of Sarah, her laughter in the kitchen, her humming in the hall, her soft footsteps that once filled the silence but had now left an echo behind. Adam's jaw tightened as he rocked Lily harder. He hated feeling helpless, it was a sensation that stripped a man of his pride. Out on the ranch, he could mend fences, calm horses, and weather storms without blinking, but one crying baby left him unraveling. He tried everything, warm milk, gentle rocking, singing old lullabies, but nothing worked. Lily was inconsolable, her little face red and scrunched, her arms flailing in frustration. A sudden knock cut through the storm. 3 sharp raps, firm, unexpected. Adam froze mid-step. No one knocked this far out at night, not unless there was trouble. He glanced at the rifle leaning against the wall. His heart beat faster, not in fear for himself, but for Lily. He shifted her carefully into one arm and reached for the gun with a steadying breath. Another knock came, softer this time, almost hesitant. Adam moved to the door, his boots silent on the faded rug. He cracked the door open an inch, angling the rifle out of sight but close enough to reach. Wind pushed rain into the gap, misting his face with cold droplets. A young woman stood on the porch. She was soaked to the bone. Her dress clung to her like it was made of paper, her hair plastered in dark strands across her cheeks. She looked small and fragile against the brutal storm, but her eyes, deep, steady, tired, held a quiet determination that kept her from seeming weak. Her lips trembled as she spoke. "Sir, I heard you were looking for help. Around the ranch." Her voice quivered from cold, but it wasn't fear he heard, it was desperation held together with hope. "I need work. I can cook, clean, feed livestock, wash laundry, whatever you need done." Adam blinked, thrown off by the odd hour, the odd request, the odd sense that she wasn't just asking, she was begging. "You came, now?" he asked, raising his voice over Lily's crying. The young woman nodded, glancing toward the sound of the baby. Something softened in her face, as if the crying tugged at a place inside her she had learned to hide. When she looked back at him, her expression wasn't bold or demanding, it was earnest. "I can help with her too," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm. For a moment, the world narrowed to the tiny figure on his porch and the child in his arms. Adam's instincts warred inside him, caution born from solitude, and compassion born from exhaustion. He could turn her away. It would be the safer thing, the expected thing. But then Lily wailed again, louder, shriller, and Adam felt his resolve unravel like frayed rope. He opened the door wider. Her shoulders sagged with relief. "Come in," he said quietly, a sigh escaping him. "Just come in." She stepped over the threshold, dripping water onto the wooden floor, and in that small movement, something shifted in the still, grieving house. It wasn't warmth, not yet, but the cold didn't feel quite as sharp anymore. Her name was Mara. She said it softly, like someone unsure whether her own name still belonged to her. Adam motioned her toward the stove, where the heat glowed golden against the chill that clung to her clothes. She hesitated before stepping near it, as if afraid she'd be told to stop, then eased her trembling hands toward the warmth. Lily was still crying, though not with the same piercing panic. Adam bounced her awkwardly, fighting the ache in his arm. His eyes were gritty, and each cry from his daughter felt like another crack splintering through him. He had always been a strong man, calm in storms, steady on long rides, but grief had a way of hollowing even the strongest human being. Tonight it felt like he was standing on shaking ground with no rope to cling to. Mara watched carefully, not staring, he'd have hated that, but observing, the same way someone might watch a wounded animal unsure whether to approach. Her gaze shifted from Adam to the baby, and something in her expression softened so visibly that it nudged him. "May I?" she asked, nodding toward Lily. Adam hesitated. He'd barely let anyone hold his daughter since Sarah passed. Even neighbors who offered help, people he'd known for years, barely got to touch her. The protectiveness wasn't logical, but grief rarely was. He had already lost one person he loved without warning, his heart couldn't handle the idea of losing anything else. But then Lily let out another heartbreaking cry, hoarse, worn, desperate. Adam sighed and held the baby out. Mara reached for her as though lifting something sacred. Her hands were gentle but sure, not hesitant at all, and the moment Lily rested against her shoulder, the baby's sobs shrank. It wasn't sudden magic, but something slower and more real. The cries turned into whimpers, the whimpers into hiccups, the hiccups into little breaths. Adam stared, astonished. He hadn't seen his daughter this calm at night since before Sarah's illness worsened. Mara didn't look proud of what she'd done, she looked relieved. And sad. That sadness in her eyes unsettled him. It was too old, too deep, far too heavy for someone her age. "She's exhausted," Mara whispered, stroking Lily's back in small, patient circles. "When babies cry like that, it's not just tiredness. It's loneliness too." Adam blinked. "Loneliness." Mara nodded. "They feel the absence of the person who held them the most. They don't understand why she's gone, they just feel the empty space." The words hit Adam sharper than he expected. He swallowed, looking away. He didn't want a stranger, especially one at his door at midnight, seeing how broken he'd become. But Mara didn't press further. She simply kept humming, a quiet tune that Adam didn't recognize but felt soothing all the same. He offered her a bowl of leftover stew once Lily drifted asleep against her shoulder. Mara sat, keeping the baby nestled close, and began eating in small, careful bites, as though she didn't want to take more than she deserved. Adam noticed how thin she was, how her hands trembled a little from hunger, how she chewed like someone who wasn't used to regular meals anymore. "You said you worked at a boarding house?" Adam asked gently. She nodded. "For years. Why'd you leave?" Her spoon paused midair. The silence that followed was not the kind that comes from shyness. It was the kind that carries stories no one wants to tell. "Needed to move on," she said finally, her voice too tight, too quick. Adam didn't push. His instincts told him whatever she was hiding, it wasn't evil. It was fear. The rain thudded against the windows as the house settled into an uneasy quiet. Adam leaned back, rubbing his temples, thinking about the ranch, about the way fences had started collapsing faster than he could repair them, the barn roof that leaked whenever it rained, the growing piles of chores that mocked him each morning. He had been drowning long before Mara knocked on the door. "I can sleep in the barn," she said suddenly, as if sensing his thoughts. "If you're worried, I don't mind the cold." Adam shook his head. "No, the barn leaks worse than the roof in here. And Sarah, she never let anyone sleep out there, not even drifters. She'd haunt me if I let you." A tiny smile flickered across Mara's face. Gratitude, but also disbelief, like kindness was something she wasn't accustomed to anymore. "I won't let you down," she whispered. He believed her, but belief didn't erase the strange tension at the edges of her presence. Midnight was a strange hour to seek work. Even stranger was the way she seemed afraid of being turned away. Afraid of being caught out in the world alone. As Adam watched her cradle Lily with a tenderness he thought only Sarah possessed, he couldn't shake the nagging question settling deep in his bones. What was she running from, and why come here? For the first time that night, it wasn't only the storm outside that kept him awake. It was the storm he sensed trailing behind her. Morning unfolded slowly, as if the sun itself was reluctant to rise after the stormy night. A pale gold light seeped through the curtains, soft and hesitant. Adam woke to the smell of coffee, strong, fresh, and so unexpected he thought, for a split second, that Sarah must be in the kitchen. But then he heard humming. Not Sarah's melody, this was different. Softer, uncertain, like someone who wasn't used to being heard. He followed the sound. The kitchen, usually a cluttered reminder of everything he'd fallen behind on, looked almost orderly. Not perfect, but touched by hands that cared. Mara stood near the stove, sleeves rolled to her elbows, stirring something in a pot. Her damp dress from last night was hung near the fireplace, and she wore one of Sarah's old work blouses, too big for her, but clean and dry. Lily lay in a small woven basket on the table, wide-eyed and content, staring up at the wooden beams as if discovering the world anew. "You didn't have to start this early," Adam said, trying not to sound as startled and relieved as he felt. Mara turned, brushing a loose braid behind her ear. I like early mornings. They're quiet, easier to think. He noticed the faint bruising under her eyes, not from the night before, but old shadows of exhaustion. It struck him again that she was far younger than the kind of burdens she carried. After breakfast, she insisted on helping in the barn. Adam argued half-heartedly. She had barely slept, but Mara only smiled gently and told him, work keeps the mind steady. He watched from the barn doorway as she approached a skittish mare no one but Sarah ever managed to soothe. Mara's movements were slow and patient, each step intentional. She whispered to the animal, words Adam couldn't hear, but the mare responded, ears pricking forward, breathing evening out, tension melting from her muscles until she nuzzled Mara's hand. Adam leaned against the doorway, stunned once again by how people and animals alike softened around her. He wanted to ask more about her past, but every time he tried to frame the question, he sensed her walls rising like invisible fences. So he focused on what he could do: watch, support, and try to understand her at the pace she allowed. By midday, Mara had done more than anyone he'd hired in years. She washed dishes, swept floors, fed the horses, and even fixed 2 broken hinges on the tack room door. She carried herself like someone accustomed to working non-stop, someone who feared what might happen if she slowed down. Adam didn't like the thought. Inside the house again, he made them lunch. Mara tried to refuse, insisting she should be the one cooking now, but he shook his head. A man can feed his workers, he joked lightly. Her smile was brief, shy, but it reached her eyes. After they ate, she began tidying the table, but when the tin pail slipped from her hand and clattered loudly onto the floor, everything changed. The noise wasn't dangerous. It wasn't even sharp, but Mara flinched, violently. She stumbled back, hitting the wall behind her, her breath caught in her throat, her hands shaking. Her eyes were wide with the kind of fear Adam only ever saw in wild animals cornered by predators. Mara, he said gently. Hey, you're all right. She didn't seem to hear him. Her gaze was fixed on the floor, like she expected someone to burst into the room. Carefully, slowly, Adam stepped closer. Not reaching for her, not crowding her, just letting his presence be known in a steady way. Mara, he repeated softly. Who hurt you? Her lip trembled. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she squeezed her eyes shut as if bracing for the pain of saying the truth. Someone who doesn't want to let me go, she whispered. Adam felt a cold anger he hadn't known in years rise inside him, not at her, but at whoever had taught her to fear noise, footsteps, shadows. Whoever had chased her into the rain at midnight with nowhere else to run. Are you in danger right now? He asked, voice calm, but firm with protective resolve. Mara hesitated. Her silence was answer enough. Adam took a breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle over him like a saddle on a horse. He looked at Lily in her arms, sleeping peacefully, tiny fingers tangled in Mara's blouse. They fit together, somehow. 2 fragile souls trying to stitch themselves back into the world. You're safe here, Adam said at last. His words came out low, certain, carrying a promise he intended to keep. I won't let anyone touch you. Not while you're under this roof. Mara opened her eyes and looked at him, really looked. What he saw in her gaze wasn't trust, not yet. Trust was something slow to bloom. But there was something else. Hope, thin, trembling, but alive. Outside, the plains were quiet after the storm. Inside the old ranch house, the air felt different, warmer, fuller, carrying a sense of beginning. 3 hearts, broken, wandering, pulled together by chance, had begun to settle into the same rhythm. And for the first time since losing Sarah, Adam found himself imagining a future that didn't feel like a betrayal to the past, but a second chance at something he thought he'd never have again.